So what's going on, guys? It's your boy Nistro here, and hope you all had a great Valentine's Day. I'm recording this on the day, Structure Deck, Blue Eyes release day, excuse me. I don't know what Valentine's Day is, but happy Blue Eyes Structure Deck release day. I came across a spreadsheet that was posted online, and I figured easier than doing all the work myself, I'm just going to go over some of the most high value combos I found on this spreadsheet, because there are certain things where it's like it's mostly there, where there are some other things I don't agree with. There's also going to be two different deck profiles at the end, one using the Primite engine and one without the Primite engine, so I think it's going to be really interesting to see the differences in how those work. Don't ask me about that red box at the bottom. I don't know why it's there. But yeah, we are starting here with just the one card, Sage with Eyes of Blue. I guess it'll do me some good to go over each card, since I'm assuming this may be some of your guys' first time interacting with Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes kind of has two different layers to its archetype. The smaller monsters, which are kind of like based off Fire Emblem or something, are kind of the more utility, like level 1 tuners that set up everything, and then you have like your payoff with the bigger, Blue Eyes and all the bigger dragons. And then as we get into the Primite engine, there's also a part of the deck that like just gets Blue Eyes out directly and also gets you a constant resource of interruptions and of searches, right? So Sage with Eyes of Blue, on normal summon, it adds a level 1 light tuner. Yes, that is including Effect Veiler, so Effect Veiler is searchable in this deck. As long as it's not another copy of itself, it's fair game. And then you can discard him and target an effect monster you control. Basically send both this card from your hand and the effect monster to summon Blue Eyes from the deck. And this summons any Blue Eyes monster, which is actually really good. It's not just Blue Eyes White Dragon, although unless you're really spicy, you probably won't be playing a lot of the other Blue Eyes monsters. That was how you played Blue Eyes back in the day, but now with all this new support in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, less is more. If you can get the same or similar results with less cards, that's what you're going to do. So you're not going to play a lot of these other Blue Eyes cards that came out throughout the years that were like mediocre. You're only going to focus on the OG Blue Eyes, which honestly makes the deck a little cooler for people who want to play their original Blue Eyes from whatever set, whatever artwork. Probably not going to use this second effect as much. You're probably going to be normal summoning him, because there's only really him and one of the Primite monsters that you're going to be normal summoning, and that's really it. You're not really going to be normal summoning like let's say this Maiden of White, because what she does is that she can send herself from hand or field to the graveyard, and she doesn't activate, she just places the True Light from hand, deck, or graveyard face up in your spell and trap zone. So that means this card, you only need to play one copy of it, because you will always have access to it, as long as you have access to a Maiden in White. Now, if you special summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon while this card's in your graveyard, she can special summon herself back, and she's a level 1 tuner, right? Which is great, because now that means special summoning Blue Eyes gives you access to a level 9 synchro, which is the best synchro that Blue Eyes has. And then when a card effect is activated that targets this card on the field, she kind of works like the previous Maiden with Eyes of Blue, where she summons Blue Eyes or a level 1 tuner, except this time it's from your graveyard and not from your deck. But she does so much in one card that it's okay she doesn't grab Blue Eyes from the deck, because True Light is actually just better than grabbing Blue Eyes from deck. So what True Light does, your opponent cannot target Blue Eyes in your monster zone with card effects, and that's the original Blue Eyes White Dragon. If this face-up card is sent from the spell trap zone to the graveyard, destroy monsters you control, right? Kind of like the only drawback of the card, because it does so much that like if it gets destroyed, they just say, hey, pop all your monsters. Now this actually can work in your advantage sometimes, because some of your monsters do trigger when they're destroyed by card effects. You can only use one of the following effects per turn. Either you special summon Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand or graveyard, or you set a spell or trap from your deck that specifically lists Blue Eyes White Dragon in its text with a different name from the cards you control and in your graveyard. So you can't like keep setting the same one over and over, but you can, at least when you start out, right? Because you're just grabbing one card that grabs the other and then grabbing this can grab you a card that gets you into more Blue Eyes pieces. We're linking off the Sage with Eyes of Blue before we're using the True Light here into the new Link 1 monster, right? And Link 1s, we know how Link 1s go in this game. Any deck with a half decent Link 1 is just going to be crazy. It takes any level 4 or lower dragon or spellcaster monster. You cannot special summon except for dragons while he's on your field. And then you can only use each of the effects once per turn. When it's link summoned, you get to add the field spell Mausoleum of Light from your deck, and either add it from your deck to your hand or send it to the graveyard, because Mausoleum of Light does have a graveyard effect, but it's not that relevant. And then also you can tribute this card, special summon a Blue Eyes monster from your hand or graveyard, including the OG Blue Eyes. But if you special summon an effect monster from your graveyard by this effect, it cannot attack in its effects when you get it. So if you try to use this with one of the Blue Eyes effect monsters, you're not going to get much off of it. But that's still a pretty good effect, right? Because if, let's say this is like a turn 2 or turn 3 scenario, you have a Maiden in white in hand, you normal summon it, you can link off into Sage, you tribute the Sage, summon back a Blue Eyes, and then Maiden can trigger to summon herself back, and now you have a level 9 synchro just off of one card. So this deck has really good recursion, really good follow-up, and a really good grind game. So as you can see, we grabbed the Mausoleum of White off of our Spirit with Eyes of Blue here, and what Mausoleum of White does is it pretty much does two things that are important. The first thing is that it gives you an extra normal summon of level 1 light tuners. So in case you need the extension, you can link off into the Hermetic Seals, or you can get more synchros going depending on what you open. And then also it can target a face-up monster you control, send a normal monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and if you do, the targeted monster gains attack equal to the level times 100 until the end of this turn. Its graveyard effect is it can banish to add Burst Stream of Destruction, but nobody plays Burst Stream. You could, I mean, if you're going to play this deck more casually, but on a competitive level, people are not playing. Essentially, opening Sage with Eyes of Blue gets you into Maiden, and then also gets you into Spirit of Blue Eyes, which adds you Mausoleum. Mausoleum mills the Blue Eyes. Spirit with Eyes of Blue is going to summon back the Blue Eyes, which is going to happen right now. And because we summon back Blue Eyes, we also get to summon back Maiden, and then we can immediately turn those into the Spirit Dragon, which is really good. Neither player can summon 2 or more monsters at the same time, which really only hurts what, like Pendulum? Which is a random Pendulum floodgate. Like Pendulum is just catching strays with this Blue Eye support for whatever reason. Also, once per turn, when an effect of a card in the graveyard is activated, you can negate the activation of that effect. It doesn't destroy, but that's still pretty good. A lot of what happens in Yu-Gi-Oh happens in the graveyard, so being able to interact with it is really efficient. Even like on like a soft floodgate and a soft negate or soft interruption. But we're in like Fiendsmith format. You got stuff like Aggregator, you got stuff like Eclipse Twins. You have a lot of stuff in the format that like activates in the graveyard, so this is a pretty good effect to have on a synchro monster. Now its final effect is that you can tribute him as a quick effect as long as he's properly synchro summoned, and then special summon a light dragon synchro monster from your extra deck in defense position, except another copy of itself, but the monster you summon is destroyed during the end phase of this turn. We're going to get into what the possibilities of light dragon synchros you can summon off of this later are, but just know that, okay, Crimson Dragon is one. If you can make another Blue Eye Spirit Dragon, then you can go into stuff like Cosmic Blazar. You can go pretty much like anything Crimson Dragon can summon. If you can make 2 Spirit Dragons, you can make it. There's also a level 12 Blue Eye Synchro monster, which we'll get into a little later. But yeah, this is essentially the setup. And this is all off of just one card. It looks very simple, but is very effective, right? Because as he's going to do right now, his True Light is going to get him, again, once per turn, set a spell or trap from your deck that specifically lists Blue Eyes White Dragon. And now Blue Eyes have a trap card that can destroy an equal amount of cards as the Blue Eyes White Dragons that you control in your hand, field, or graveyard. So you use True Light during your turn to set this, and during your opponent's turn, you can special summon back the Blue Eyes White Dragon, meaning you can get a free pop off of Majesty, you get a free soft negate off Spirit, and then you can tribute Spirit to get another interruption on the field. So that's about 3 to 4 interruptions depending on how your opponent plays through this, and a lot of recursion. So that's the first combo. The name of the person who made the spreadsheet is called Hypnocorn, so you may see this card in some of the combos. It's not relevant to anything there, it's just there just as a little teaser. So Sage with Eyes of Blue with a discard. So you're going to start the same way. You're going to go Sage with Eyes of Blue, Maiden of White. Maiden of White puts True Light on the field. True Light activates, and this time it's going to get you the Prayers with Eyes of Blue. So what this does is this is like a drop 1 search 2 for Blue Eyes now. So you discard 1 and you add a level 1 light tuner and a spell or trap that mentions Blue Eyes White Dragon for your deck to your hand, except for Prayers. And then you can banish this card from your graveyard, target a Blue Eyes White Dragon you control, equip one Blue Eyes from your extra deck to it as an equip spell that gives it 400 attack. Now this is actually a condition for contact fusing one of the Blue Eyes fusions. So they actually give you a really easy way to contact fuse one of the Blue Eyes fusions on top of being able to add, resources from your deck to your hand, which sets up a lot for you. So Sage link off into Spirit, gets Mausoleum dumps Blue Eyes, Sage summon Blue Eyes, Maiden triggers, summon herself back, and you get Spirit Dragon. Now we can use Prayers here to drop 1, add 2. And now we already know what Sage does, but what Saga does here is Saga summons Blue Eyes from basically anywhere. It summons from deck, graveyard, or banishment. Anywhere except the hand, I guess. But you can only summon Blue Eyes with this if you don't already control it. This can bring back your Synchros, but as I mentioned earlier, Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon needs to be Synchro summoned to use its effect to summon out Synchros from the extra deck. So it'll be more of a soft floodgate, a soft interruption if you decide to bring it back. Also, you can banish this card from your graveyard and fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from hand or field. I don't think this effect is going to be as relevant unless you're on a very specific build of the deck, and I'm not sure if you'd even use this effect because you can only use one effect per turn, as stated in this last sentence, and only once that turn. So if you use the effect to summon Blue Eyes from anywhere, then you cannot use the effect to fusion summon that same turn, meaning you're not going to see people use this fusion effect too often, if ever. And it doesn't use fusion materials from anywhere special, right? It doesn't use fusion materials from graveyard. It uses from hand or field, so it's just like resolving a polymerization. It's nothing special, the second effect of this card, but I do like its ability to bring Blue Eyes from anywhere, and it's the fact that it's searchable off of a convenient add 2 makes it like a good one of in any Blue Eyes list, right? So now Sage is not once per turn. The only part of Sage that's once per turn is the part to discard, but the normal summon effect is not once per turn. So if you can go Sage, add Mausoleum, and then get to the point where you add another Sage, you normal summon Sage again, guess what? You have Effect Veiler. You have access to a free interruption on the opponent's turn on top of what your engine can already do. As you can probably guess, the next thing we're going to do, summon out another Blue Eyes, and then boom, we're going to get into another Spirit Dragon here. Now, these combos don't show the potential of Spirit Dragon, which, as I mentioned earlier, it's like you have stuff like Crimson Dragon, you have a Blue Eyes level 12 Synchro, which we're going to get into a little later, but just know for now that the combo is off of just Sage and a discard, you get double Spirit Dragon, True Light, and you get Effect Veiler. Now this time we don't have the trap card because we decided to go for the Searcher instead of the Pop. But I think this is somewhat of a better situation than last time because Spirit Dragon is a soft once per turn on both of its effects, meaning if you have multiple of them, both of them can activate in the same turn. So now getting into the Primite engine and the utility that the Primite engine can add or give to the Blue Eyes strategy, Lordly Load does a lot for the deck, right? Because we all know Lordly Load by now. It summons any normal monster. It also gets to add Primite cards from your deck to your hand. Normally, you may want to use the first effect to add the Primite Roar, because Primite Roar would summon the Blue Eyes without restricting you from being able to activate other monster effects. Because if you use Lordly Load's second effect to summon Blue Eyes from hand, deck, or graveyard, then you cannot use monster effects on the field for the rest of the turn, or special summon monster effects on the field for the rest of the turn, but that's still pretty significant, right? As you'll come to see, we actually flipped that script on its head because we get to add the Beryl off of Lordly Load, and also, just for it to be known, you cannot activate Lordly Load unless you have a Primite card to search. So that's why a lot of people like the Primite Beryl engine, because Lordly Load kind of doesn't work unless you're playing a bigger Primite package in general. Like, just playing 3 load and 1 roar can kind of be a detriment to you as a player, because if you open another load later on in the game, it's not going to be the same. Because you may not be able to activate it, you may not be able to resolve it and use it to its full potential. But because we're playing a decent amount of Primite cards, that shouldn't be an issue in our deck. So this time we're going to normal summon the Beryl, right? And it's a level 4 dragon, so it can be used to make our Link 1. And because it can be used to make our Link 1, we can grab Mausoleum, in which Mausoleum can get us an extra normal summon for Sage with Eyes of Blue. So even though we're not summoning Sage now, it's still going to be relevant later on. Another thing to note, Beryl and Lordly Load grab each other out of the deck. So Lordly Load gets to add any Primite card on activation. Beryl on normal summon gets to set a Primite spell or trap from your deck. So that means if you open Beryl, you still get access to Lordly Load, which will get you access to Drill Beam. Or if you open Lordly Load, it still gets you access to Beryl, which will give you access to Drill Beam. So no matter which one of these two that you open, you still get the trifecta of Primite cards that give you the grind game that you need. Because Beryl, during your standby phase, comes back from your graveyard back to your hand. And Drill Beam, if you control a Primite monster, it can actually reset itself from the graveyard during your main phase every turn. It doesn't get banished after you use this effect, it just keeps coming back. DD Crow may have to be a consideration for this format, because if you aren't getting rid of this Drill Beam, it's going to keep coming back, and Drill Beam has a nasty effect. This is a very scary loop here, because this banishes and negates cards every single turn. Even in a grind game, having this little loop that continually can remove cards from the opponent's field, negating them first and then banishing them after, is crazy. It does target, so there may be some cards that Drill Beam cannot get over. And this also doesn't get rid of monsters. This gets rid of any continuous spell or trap. Like, it targets any card on the field, so it's kind of like a Desiree that also banishes the cards. It's really crazy. This is why Primate works so good. And then you get all this, and you get to special summon Blue Eyes after all this too. It should also be noted, the hidden effect of Lordly Load, attack gain. So normal monsters and Primate monsters you control, for each normal monster you control with different names, or each normal monster with a different name in your graveyard. Since you're only going to have Blue Eyes, they all get a 300 point boost. But going into grind games, that is going to be something to remember, because that may come up, right? Beryl has 1600. You know, if your opponent like made an SP and then passed their turn, and then Beryl comes back to your hand, you may want to normal the Beryl, no effect on summon, and then swing into the SP, because since you have the extra 300 points on the Beryl thanks to Lordly Load, that may allow you to get through some situations which you may not have gotten through normally. So it may come up that this 300 attack is actually really important for both your Beryl and for your Blue Eyes. Alright, enough yapping. So the line is you link Beryl into Spirit with Eyes of Blue, right? Mausoleum, dump the Blue Eyes, Sage, add the Maiden. Maiden gets you the True Light. Then you can use Spirit here to revive the Blue Eyes. And the reason why you did it in that order is because you discarded the Maiden first, and then you summon back the Blue Eyes so that Maiden can summon itself back. And now that gives you your first level 9 Synchro. Thanks to True Light, you get to set your Prayers, and then Prayers can grab you 2 more cards, which, you know, could be Effect Veiler, because Prayers also searches level 1 Light Tuners. So multiple cards in this engine search Effect Veiler, not just Sage, which is pretty cool. Honestly, if we didn't start the turn with Beryl, which you do want to start the turn with Beryl, but assuming we didn't, we could get like a double Sage normal summon here, and double Sage normal summon means that you can grab another Effect Veiler. Kind of crazy. And so we get Majesty as well, so Majesty's gonna make sure that we can you know, pop some cards on the field thanks to True Light. And then, because of Lordly Load, we can just summon a Blue Eyes from anywhere, right? Hand deck or graveyard. You can use the same one from the graveyard, but I think it's more optimal to summon the one from deck so you don't draw into it later, and you can just get it into the graveyard, and then use that Blue Eyes plus Sage with Eyes of Blue to make your second Spirit Dragon. So this is probably the strongest first turn setup that you can have, because again, you can make Crimson Dragon into Blazar, you can make multiple things here. Now, you won't be able to do that during your turn if you resolve Lordly Load. Thankfully, Spirit Dragons are quick effects, so you know, frame 1, it doesn't matter any phase. You can do a main phase, standby phase, draw phase. You can activate Spirit Dragon at any point, right, to make the Crimson Dragon, and then Crimson Dragon can make any level 12 Synchro, or any level Dragon Synchro, depending on what you summon with the first Spirit Dragon. And then you also have Drill Beam here, so Drill Beam, again, the normal monster may have to be in your hand, or on the field, right? Because you can summon back Blue Eyes with True Light, So once you have that Blue Eyes on field, then Drill Beam will be live to be able to banish and negate cards your opponent controls, and then you have Majesty to pop a card. So now you have like 5 to 6 interruptions depending on how you sequence this, possibly even more compared to the 2 or 3 before that you had with only a single card. Feel free to use Drill Beam as much as you possibly can, because this card will just keep coming back. Like you like make sure to sequence it or time it correctly, but use it at some point. It's very much like a use it or lose it kind of thing, because you will get it back every single turn, even if you use it. So you might as well just use it as much as possible. Just use it, you know, again, just don't just spam it, but use it correctly. Now, some people are going to use the Primite Imperial Dragon, like the level 6 one, which I don't think is bad, but it just, in this variant of Blue Eyes, it's like you kind of want to keep Blue Eyes on the field on the opponent's turn, because you just get too much off of leaving Blue Eyes on your field compared to taking Blue Eyes off your field. Now, that being said, using Ghost Ogre on something like True Light could be very impactful in the matchup, because now if you get rid of the True Light, not only are they not summoning back the Blue Eyes here, but both these Spirit Dragons are going to have to go bye-bye in a new chain. So they may have to chain Spirit Dragons to your Ghost Ogre so they can try to summon something that won't be destroyed by the card effect, True Light. That also being said, again, Maiden can grab True Light from the graveyard, and so can one of your fusions, but in that moment, True Light will destroy all monsters they control. So they can get the True Light back, they can still continue the grind game, but if you can break that board and pierce their defenses in that one moment, it could be really impactful, and it could probably give the opposing player the game if they time getting rid of True Light correctly. Alright, so we've gone over a lot of the combo potential of the deck. Now we're going to go through just one simple Anti-Nibiru combo. We're going to normal summon out the Beryl. Beryl's going to get us Lordly Load, which gets us Drill Beam. We go Maiden, get us True Light. True Light gets us Prayers. And even here, right, we just discarded this Drill Beam, you know, which normally Prayers would be a -1, but if we open this Beryl, we just get to resolve Drill Beam and just set it to our field. Like, it's crazy. We effectively lost nothing for resolving Prayers with Eyes of Blue. And look at how many cards we have, and we still have the same number of cards in our hand. Like, we still have 5 cards in our hand right now. And we're not even done comboing off. Now we go into Spirit. Spirit gets Mausoleum, right? We get our second normal summon for Sage. Mausoleum, Mill, Blue Eyes. Spirit summon back, right? Get, this is assuming, right, that they use Nibiru here. You basically just sit on one Spirit Dragon, like you go into the one Spirit Dragon, and you say, okay, attempt to leave main phase. That's when they could Nibiru you. And then if they nib you here, you still have the Lordly Load to summon out Blue Eyes, and then you still have that Maiden to bring herself back, because we didn't use her earlier, to go into that second Spirit Dragon. So now you have this combo that's resilient to Nibiru. If you don't try to go for the double Spirit Dragon and get a little greedy, then going for a single Spirit Dragon makes you more resilient to interruption, or to Nibiru at least, right? But you still have everything you need here, right? You still have the Pop of Majesty, you still have the negate with Drill Beam, thanks to True Light, you still have the soft negate and the level 12 Blue Eyes synchro off of this. So that's about 2 negates, 3, 4, 5 interruptions through a Nibiru, which is still pretty fucking great, right? So going into the deck list, right? So the first thing I should show you guys is the Blue Eyes Ultimate Spirit Dragon, since you're never going to synchro summon this. I'm being real, right? 2+ tuners plus a non-tuner Blue Eyes, you're never synchro summoning this. This is bound to be summoned off the Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, and it's only going to stay there for a turn, but it's going to be really impactful, because A, your opponent cannot banish cards from the graveyard, so Bestials, if they main deck them, they're dead. Malice may struggle against this if they try to White Binder, can't do that. So yeah, this could be a really good card effect. It also just has a just almost Red Eyes Dragoon kind of effect, right? So when a card effect on the field is activated, not anywhere, but on the field, you can negate the activation, and if you do, this card gains 1,000 attack until the end of this turn, which is cool, right? I mean, even though it already has a lot of attack, being able to go up to 4,500 with a 4K thousand, I said 4K thousand, with a 4,000 defense could be really impactful. It's kind of like to be seen how impactful this effect will be, because it doesn't destroy the card that it negates, so you can probably negate stuff like that's impactful, like, you know, Rhodas and, you know, spell cards or board breakers or stuff like that. But not being able to destroy the card makes this less effective against monster effects. You know, people building boards, they may still be able to make pushes into you, because you're not fully getting rid of the problem. You're just simply negating one effect. And then if it's destroyed by a battle or by card effect, it can summon a light dragon monster from your graveyard. So it can, you know, on end of phase, Spirit Dragon destroys it. So Ultimate Spirit Dragon can either bring back Spirit Dragon. So although Spirit Dragon won't be able to tribute off again, it'll still have its, you know, effect to stop things activating in the graveyard, which can be, again, pretty impactful, pretty strong. And you could also bring back just a regular Blue Eyes in case you want to bring that back, bring Maiden back and go into another regular Spirit Dragon in the follow-up turn. Or there's even Light Storm Dragon, which just came out in Supreme Darkness, right? It's a somewhat of a Harpy's Feather Duster on summon. It's more of like an X-Saber Hyunlei, I believe that's her name, right? Where on Synchro Summon she popped up spell and trap cards your opponent controls. And then if he's destroyed by a battle or by card effect, you can reset a spell or trap card from your graveyard. But it can't be activated unless you control a normal monster, which in this deck is not a problem thanks to the existence of Lordly Load. Some people are opting to go for Shen Shen because it's like a mini macro while it's on the field. I wouldn't recommend this card if you want to do your Drill Beam loops, but maybe if they got Drill Beam out of rotation or something of that nature, then you can go for this, but I'm not sure if I would play this personally. I like the idea because, again, Ultimate Spirit Dragon is a level 12 monster, so you tribute your first Spirit Dragon to make this, then you tribute, if you made two of them, your second Spirit Dragon to make Crimson Dragon. Now you have a Blazar in rotation on top of your gameplay loop, which I just think sounds so much stronger than just, I don't know, sitting on this or making the fusions. So also, right, so we were talking about prayers or wishes. I guess wishes is going to be the TCG name. I guess prayers is to whatever, right? So it's second effect, right? So it gets to equip a Blue Eyes monster from your extra deck to it as a equip spell. So that's why you play the Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, because Neo Blue Eyes, you're not going to fusion summon this normally. You can't, because you're not playing 3 different Blue Eyes White Dragons. But if you equip this card to your Blue Eyes monster, and then Blue Eyes Tyrant, its alternative summoning condition is that it must be either fusion summoned or special summoned from your extra deck by tributing 1 Blue Eyes White Dragon equipped with a fusion monster, right? So you just send the Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and the regular Blue Eyes to the graveyard, and you're able to summon Tyrant. And what Tyrant does is that it's unaffected by trap cards or effects, right? It can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, which is pretty good. I mean, sitting at a 3,400 base attack, that's pretty solid. And once per turn at the end of the damage step of this card battled, you can target a trap card in your graveyard, and set it to your spell and trap zone. So you can reset your Majesty, you can reset True Light if you already used it. I guess if you decide to play Purge, which is optional, definitely not mandatory, because although everything in your engine doesn't conflict with this, and it's perfectly fine to resolve this, right? Stuff like Ash Blossom is still out there, Bystials are still an option, so things like Typhon, SP, if you want to limit those options later on in the game, then by all means use the Dominus Purge, but I just don't think this card is as impactful as Dominus Impulse. So me personally, I wouldn't max out, or I wouldn't prioritize playing Purge, but it plays better into Tactics, Talent, and Thrust, and mixed with an Imperm, it could be like twice as strong, because then it could pop any card on the field. Yeah, it only pops the card activated, never mind. But that's still pretty, it's still better, right? It's still like not bad, it's just not amazing either. And yeah, that's why I don't fully understand Ultimate Fusion in the deck, because you can, like, it is another interruption if you sequence it correctly, right? So if you use True Light, if you set up True Light on the opponent's turn and you just have a Blue Eye sitting on field, you may desire to use that Blue Eyes, right? Because Ultimate Fusion, it shuffles the materials from graveyard, hand, or field back into deck. So you can recycle, like, you know, Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, since it uses Blue Eyes plus any dragon monster. And if you use a Blue Eyes on field, then you can destroy face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of Blue Eyes that you use. So not saying this is a bad card to use. I'm not saying it's a bad card. What I'm saying is that it may lack the utility that you need, because it takes a lot of setup to kind of get there. And unlike a lot of the cards in your engine where it's like, okay, really the only card here that requires setup is Majesty, but everything else here is like pretty solid. Like you can just kind of draw it and still do pretty well with it. Ultimate Fusion may be something of a soft brick if you're not able to play, instead of being something that helps you get to where you want to go. Because you can make Tyrant Dragon anyway, like you just resolve wishes affecting graveyard and you can get to Tyrant Dragon anyway. And this isn't something that you're making first turn either. Oh, and it should be stated, right, the reason why it's so good that you can equip Neo Blue Eyes off of wishes is because basically once it's sent to graveyard, it's targeting protection for any Blue Eyes cards that you control. So for your Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon and for your Ultimate Spirit Dragon, it also, you know, stops them from being targeted from stuff like SP, right? So if they try to maneuver around what you're doing, you can protect your Blue Eyes monsters from being targeted. And then Neo Blue Eyes actually negates and destroys the card that tries to target you, right? So negate the activation if you do destroy that card, which is pretty damn good, if you ask me. Seals is good in this deck. It's better if you're playing Bystials. It doesn't do much if you're playing like only Primite. So I think it's a good card. Like, so for example, you could like summon Baldrake off of this, and then Baldrake could be an interruption, since Baldrake can tribute other monsters to banish monsters your opponent summons from the extra deck. So that's, or you can tribute summon Magnuma. Magnuma can add a dragon on end phase. So again, that's part of the reason why Purge may not be the best call for the deck, because it's not truly, because although there are certain although most of your engine doesn't use dark, water, or fire monsters, like there are certain situations where you may want to keep those cards over others, and I don't think Purge is strong enough to warrant skipping off on those cards just to have one extra interruption. Although I guess Purge is really good in the fucking mirror match, right? Negating the wishes for Eyes of Blue is really impactful, and not being able to interact with this card because it's a trap card, and unless they're playing Crossout, which I'm not sure if people are even considering Crossout this format now that Blue Eyes mirrors may be something more common, but you still have to consider Ryzeal and Malice, so I don't think Blue Eyes players are going to be on Crossout. So that's something to consider. And then yeah, like you have Anima here. Although people aren't playing into the Anima column that hard, someone may forget that it exists, and that's when you kind of catch them. Like you can kind of catch people slacking with this. You don't really need it for the Link 1 the same way like Snake Eyes did. And then you have like SP, right? So here we have something of a more budget build. Now we didn't go over Kaiser Seahorse in any of the combo lines, but the link to the spreadsheet is going to be below. But essentially, Kaiser Seahorse just does the same thing that a single Maiden does. Both Kaiser Seahorse and a single Maiden only make you a Spirit Dragon. That's all they do. Like, they don't get you Majesty, they don't get you anything else. All they do is they get you a single Spirit Dragon, and that's about it, right? Because if he's sent from fields to the graveyard, you can send a Blue Eyes monster or one monster that mentions Blue Eyes from your deck to the graveyard. So essentially, you normal summon him, link off into Spirit. Spirit grabs you Mausoleum, and he will mill Blue Eyes. Actually, no, he will mill Maiden. Excuse me, and then from there, Spirit Dragon tribute itself, summon back the Blue Eyes that you mill off Mausoleum. Maiden summons itself back, and you get regular Spirit Dragon. Yeah. Droll here, I like Droll as a card. This format. It doesn't do too much against Blue Eyes because there are certain times where it's like, thanks to Maiden placing the True Light and thanks to True Light setting the spell and trap directly from deck, it's like it really only stops them from using one of the two of like Sage or Wishes, but if one resolves, they still get the full combo essentially, so it's kind of redundant. I guess it does stop Spirit from grabbing Mausoleum, but if they have the Primite stuff, like if they're playing Primite, Lordly Load can just summon the Blue Eyes anyway, whereas I guess with Mausoleum, or I guess in a pure deck, grabbing Mausoleum off of Spirit may be something that's more important, right, than resolving Sage, but you won't know you're playing into a Droll until the Droll is there. So, or that's something you could really only mitigate if you're starting with Kaiser Seahorse. Otherwise, if you're starting with Sage, you're always going to search. There's no reason not to search. Like if they have Droll, they have it, but you're always going to search with Sage. This time, this build is playing the Blue Eyes Jet Dragon, and so this is a kind of like, I don't want to say a battle trap. It's kind of like, I haven't played Edison in a while, so I'm struggling to come up like with what monster it reminds me of. Maybe like one of the green baboons, where basically if a card on the field is destroyed by card effect, you can summon it from the graveyard or from the hand. And then if he battles, he can target a card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. So essentially, he can just be part of your combo lines. You can either summon to the graveyard, do whatever. Field card on field is destroyed by card effect, which is, you know, happens on end phase with Spirit Dragon. It happens in a whole bunch of ways. You can get him on field, and then you can use him to clear kind of certain interruptions, right? Bounce stuff back to hand, and while he's on the field, other cards can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So, I mean, if you want to be the full Seto Kaiba Blue Eyes player, I mean, what's more Seto Kaiba than, you know, playing the fucking Blue Eyes Jet that Kaiba flew in that one fucking clip from the original Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm not sure if Double Roar is the correct play for a more budget build, but I wouldn't know. I haven't really play tested this deck much. And again, same criticism with Ultimate Fusion, especially this time where you're not actually playing multiple Tyrant, because you're not, and we're not playing, we're also not playing Magia, because this wouldn't be a budget build if we were playing Magia here, which Magia should get reprinted in Stampede or something, because it's kind of ridiculous. We also don't play any rituals, so again, we're not, so Magia wouldn't be a thing here. I do like the existence of Skill Drain, I think, but you know, in like a mirror match, people are just gonna Primite Drill Beam this thing away, so it's not that much of a threat. Prosperity's good here. I like the Ghost Ogre is in the side for the mirror match. Lancia is actually pretty cool. Lancia's here because there's a Synchro coming in, Alliance Insight that's able to search Lancia, which is great. You have your Board Breakers and your Solemn Strikes. Moonlight is here because this time we're on a Bestial, Magnuma. I do think Baldric should be on the list if you're on Bestials, because Baldric from Seal is really strong. And Indigo Eyes Silver Dragon is like, in theory, a good card. Like, there's nothing wrong with this card on paper, but when you go into the practicality of like when this card would actually be summoned, there actually isn't a lot of times where you're going to summon this card, especially not in this variant, without any Primite, because what 2 level 8s are you going to get on the field? Because you're going to be looping your Spirit Dragon with your Ultimate Spirit Dragon, and you're going to have a lot of level 1 tuners. So you're just going to summon Indigo Eyes when, you know, instead of going into like some of your best Synchro monsters? I'm not too convinced. Now, if you do pull him off, he negates the effects of all face-up cards your opponent controls on Exceed Summon, and then you can detach a material, summon a normal monster from your graveyard or banishment, and if you do, it gains 1000 attack, which would essentially put your opponent in range of getting gamed if they have nothing left on the field.
With no monsters left on the field, I summon Dark Magician, declare direct attack.
It just seems like you're not going to be able to summon the card that much, unfortunately. And then you have your Spirit with Eyes of Blue. It's a little difficult for me to say, like, I think one of these should be an Anima, because you can't make SP with Spirit, because, you know, SP isn't a dragon monster. So I think one of these should be a relinquished Anima, and maybe take out the Indigo Eyes, and I think maybe find some space for a Crimson Dragon and a Blazar, and I think this could be a better extra deck, but otherwise not bad for a concept. This is just the very beginning of Blue Eyes, and this is a more budget build too, more budget friendly, so hopefully people can take this to locals and still do pretty well with it. But Primite is just so much, it just adds so much to the deck, and it's like so expensive as well. And I can't even say if it's worth it to play only a single Lordly Load and a single Beryl, but I think maybe it is. I think maybe it is worth it. Like even if you only get one of each, just try to make it something that you go for. Hopefully they get reprinted in Stampede, but since they already confirmed Fuelos, but I'm not sure if that's something that they would do at this point, because they kind of asked for people to say what cards they want to reprinted before those sets came out. Again, happy Blue Eyes release weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any questions about Blue Eyes, or if you guys want to see more follow-up content, let me know in the comment section below. And if you guys actually want to see a Dark Magician deck, because I've kind of been cooking a little with Dark Magician, it's going to be more of a simple spoils as a Mina variant, but it's still going to be using Primite. Let me know in the comment section down below, because that's something that I may be interested in showcasing at some point. But it would take me a little more time, since nobody's using Dark Magician right now, and it also doesn't have half as good as support as Blue Eyes just got. I mean, I'd love for Dark Magician to get a structure deck and get like some of the same level of like support that Blue Eyes just got, but who knows when that'll happen. It's dual monsters, so it'll happen eventually, but who knows if the support will actually be good, or if they'll do the hero and thing where they just keep releasing support that just doesn't change the deck strategy. It just adds more of the same thing. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Again, any questions, put them down below. This has been your boy Nistro here, signing out.
吹き飛ばせブルーアイズアルティメットドラゴンアルティメットバースト